Okay, let's dive into the sources you've shared today. We're looking at recent reports, right,
Right.
about countries and companies making some moves with Bitcoin.
That's right. And the idea here is really just to sift through these specific pieces of information you've got, pull out the key facts,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out what these reported actions and regulatory comments might signify right now, strictly based on what these sources are telling us.
Got it.
Oh,
Okay, so let's unpack this first one. It's about El Salvador.
yeah.
This report says they've kept adding to their Bitcoin stack, another 240 Bitcoin apparently, and this was since signing that IMF loan agreement. That feels, well, kind of pointed, doesn't it?
It does. And what's interesting, as the source highlights, is exactly that timing.
Right.
Reporting that this happened after the IMF agreement, well, it seems significant. It's just, as the article sort of implies, that they're sticking to their Bitcoin strategy.
Despite talking with the IMF and other big financial institutions.
Exactly. It's a specific action this report flags that seems to show, well, their ongoing commitment.
Okay, so that's a country sort of doubling down. Now let's switch to the corporate world, because your sources also cover this piece on Metaplanet.
Yes, Metaplanet.
This report says they just massively increased their Bitcoin holdings, added, what, $117 million worth?
That's right. And this article gives quite a bit of detail. It really paints a picture of their strategy.
Oh, so.
Well, it notes this recent buy brought their total up to 10,000 BTC, a landmark figure.
10,000. Wow.
And the report specifically points out that this is more than Coinbase reportedly holds.
Mm.
And more than that, the source details how they're funding this. They apparently launched a $210 million bond issue.
A bond.
Yeah, a bond issuance specifically to fund more Bitcoin purchases.
So they're not just using spare cash. According to this, they're actively using financial instruments, even debt, to get more Bitcoin.
Precisely. The article suggests they're leveraging the balance sheet to accelerate this whole Bitcoin treasury plan. It's a strong signal, as reported here.
It definitely is. But, with more adoption comes more attention,
Yeah.
right? And your sources also bring in a different perspective, the regulatory side, specifically mentioning Senator Warren's concerns.
Yes, this piece adds that layer of, let's say, potential regulatory friction. According to this report, Senator Warren voiced concerns about a proposed bill, the Genius Act.
Okay, and the concern is?
The core issue highlighted in this article is the potential for tech billionaires to create stablecoins under this act that could, in her view, as reported here, track people's spending.
Ah, okay. So it's focused on stablecoins in that specific act, but it ties into broader worries.
Exactly. The source uses it to talk about wider regulatory concerns about oversight and maybe the potential for private digital assets being used in ways regulators worry about, monitoring and control. It frames it around privacy and control from that regulatory viewpoint.
Okay. So recapping these sources then, we've seen a report on El Salvador continuing its Bitcoin path, Metaplanet making these major strategically financed acquisitions.
Financed with bonds, according to that source.
Right. And then a report detailing regulatory concerns, specifically mentioning tracking potential with stablecoins under proposed legislation. So, based purely on these sources you shared, what's the main takeaway?
Well, if we just synthesize what these specific reports present, we see two clear things happening at once, right? On one hand, you have these reported actions showing continued and maybe even more sophisticated adoption of digital assets by a company using things like bonds.
Yeah.
But running alongside that, you have these noted concerns from regulators like the one mentioned regarding Senator Warren, focusing on potential risks like monitoring and control, especially with stablecoins, as that source described.
So, adoption and concern side by side.
It shows that dynamic, doesn't it? Innovation and adoption moving forward, while regulatory scrutiny about oversight and control keeps pace based on these reports.
Right. So thinking about what these sources laid out for us today, what does it mean for, say, the future of money or financial oversight? If we keep seeing reports of countries and companies going deeper into digital assets, while at the same time we see reports of regulators raising flags about tracking and control, something for you to think about based only on what these sources reveal today.